Navalny, how are you? Did you have a good weekend?
Yes.
Good. Well, no. The sad news of the passing by of Navalny came to Munich, where the security conference was taking place. Today we will have here with us his wife, Yulia Navalnaya, who will send a message, a political message, about how to support the opposition, the political opposition inside Russia against Putin's regime. You see, during this weekend, many people have been demonstrating in the streets of Russia, St. Petersburg and Moscow, in spite of repression. Many of them have been detained and condemned. We have to send a message of support to the Russian opposition, and at the same time, we will continue watching how the war is. It's about 2 years that Putin launched this war against Ukraine, and it doesn't look being ready to stop it, by the contrary. So in both fronts, in the political one and in the military one, you have to continue our support to Ukraine and to the Russian people who want to be living in freedom, and to pay an homage to Navalny. And in order to honor his memory, we propose the ministers to rename our human rights sanctions regime with his name and call it the Navalny Human Rights Sanctions Regime, in order for his name to be forever written on the work of the European Union on defending human rights. Talking about human rights, we will discuss about the situation in the Middle East. I issued a statement this weekend. Unhappily, it was not a unanimous statement. I had to do it on my own, representing the great majority of the member states, but not all of them, asking Israel not to launch military offensive in Rafah. We will have also the United Nations Coordinator for Humanitarian Assistance in the Middle East, Sigrid, who will debrief the ministers about her work. And in the meantime, well, nothing new, but only the same bad news. 1.7 million people are being pushed against the Egyptian border. And by the time being, the military operation has not reached a high, but everybody is afraid that this will happen in the next days. The only solution is to free the hostages and a permanent ceasefire that could allow to look for a political solution. These will be the two main issues today in our agenda, Sigrid and Yulia Navalnaya will be present both physically in the Council.
Mr. Borrell,
what kind of persons could be sanctioned because of the events?
Yes, member states will propose sanctions, for sure, against the responsible. Well, the great responsible is Putin himself. But we can go down to the institutional structure of the penitentiary system in Russia. But don't forget who is the real responsible for the Navalny's death.
Mr. Borrell, do you consider an unilateral recognition of Palestine?
Sorry?
Do you consider to recognize Palestine as a state?
Well, you should know that the European Union doesn't recognize, it's not in its capacity to recognize or not to recognize. It's member states who have this capacity. Some have already done, others may do it, but it's about the member states. This is not the European Union decision. By the contrary, you know that 2 member states have requested to study and to assess if Israel is fulfilling or not its commitments from the point of view of human rights respect according with the association agreement. This is foreign policy. This is something that belongs to the foreign policy, and certainly we have to be involved in that, and the Council will have to decide on the basis of an assessment of the situation.
You said we have to stop talking, we have to take actions. What kind of action can take in this crucial moment where nobody can stop Israel from extending this operation?
The only solution is to free the hostages. You cannot expect the military operation to stop if the hostages continue being detained. So an agreement has to be reached, and I encourage all parties, and in particular, I want to thank the great work done by Qatar in order to look for a solution that has to start with an agreement about to free the hostages, and immediately after, or at the same time, a cessation of hostilities. This is the political work that we can do, to put political pressure and to insist on the need to free the hostages. I don't see any other step that can be taken without it. But at the same time, we have to continue putting pressure on Israel to make them understand that there are so many people in the streets of Rafah that if they launch an attack, a military attack, it will be impossible to avoid civilian casualties, which they are already unbearable, and they will still increase. And this certainly will be against the respect to humanitarian law. That's our message, our strong message. I said that many times, and yesterday I issued a statement. I wanted the 27 be behind it, and I was almost there. But not everybody was there.
Mr. Heinrich, your main message to Georgia before Georgia Council
Georgia,
tomorrow,
nothing new.
you will meet our new Prime
my
Minister. You will meet tomorrow our new Prime Minister.
Yes, we'll meet the Prime Minister, new Prime Minister.
Your main message?
To encourage Georgia to continue working on the European path. They are doing well. They are doing well, and there is a strong support from the Georgian society. This is a good occasion for Georgia.
The invasion of Rafah is clearly coming by Ramadan. Any European plan to avoid a new huge crisis in not only in Palestine but even in Egypt?
We have been warning about the situation, not only in Gaza but on the West Bank. Yesterday in Munich, everybody was talking about the war in Gaza. Yes, we have to talk about the war in Gaza, but don't forget what's happening in the West Bank, where the violence against the shelters continue. I am proposing member states to take actions to sanction the violent shelters, which are taking what we can do, terrorist action against the Palestinian people in the West Bank. And we are still not there. They are still not there. I don't still have the agreement of all member states, but I will continue pushing, because if we want to keep our credibility, we have to denounce what's happening in the West Bank. West Bank is boiling, and if they don't let people to go to the mosques during the festivities, during the Ramadan, the situation could become still worse. So let's see what the ministers have to say today.
¿Ha estudiado ya la iniciativa de España e Irlanda de revisar el Consejo de
Pero ¿cómo vamos a verla estudiado si ha llegado hace 2 días? Por favor.
¿Un calendario de cuándo va a pasar?
I am answering this question. Can you wait a little bit, please?
¿Algún calendario de cuándo se puede
Bueno,
tomar
primero
decisiones?
tenemos que ver el procedimiento a seguir. Está claro que el respeto a los derechos humanos dentro de un acuerdo de asociación es algo que es parte de la política exterior. Y por lo tanto, le va a corresponder al alto representante dirigir el análisis de en qué medida Israel está cumpliendo con sus obligaciones de acuerdo con el acuerdo de asociación. Esto no es una cosa que se pueda hacer de la noche a la mañana, pero 2 Estados miembros lo han pedido y habrá que estudiar su petición y el Consejo tendrá que estudiarlo políticamente.
¿Pero cree que se podría llegar a una votación?
No lo sé, claro, no lo sé. ¿Cómo voy a saberlo? Tendré que estudiarlo primero, ¿no?
Regarding the situation in the Middle East, are you involved in any conversation with Iran? Regarding the situation in the Middle East, are you involved in any conversation with Iran?
I'm talking a lot with Iran about the nuclear deal, but unhappily this deal by the time being is stalled. So I am personally not involved in any conversation with Iran.
Señor Borrell, ¿hay más margen después de 3 meses? ¿Sancionar más a la Rusia de Vladimir Putin después de lo que ha pasado?
Siempre hay margen y siempre hay gente que merece ser sancionada. En el caso de Navalny estamos ante una situación distinta de las personas que han sido sancionadas por su contribución al esfuerzo de guerra de Rusia. Pero los ministros lo van a decidir. Lo importante es lanzar un mensaje de apoyo a la oposición política en Rusia. Mucha gente ha sido detenida este fin de semana en Rusia al participar en demostraciones de protesta por la muerte de Navalny. Y su viuda estará aquí también con nosotros hoy. Vamos a cambiar el nombre de nuestro sistema de sanciones en defensa de los derechos humanos. Le vamos a llamar en su nombre y en su memoria. Y vamos a ver de qué manera la Unión Europea puede apoyar a los ciudadanos rusos que quieren vivir en un país en libertad.